Monday, May 16th, 2005, began with unremarkable normality. Jeshma had been studying for her exams. The future was the focus. Afterwards, she did what countless teenagers do: she went shopping. CCTV captured her on Wembley High Road, buying a top at Primark and a candle in a shop called Pound City. These are the last moving images of her alive. A silent film of mundane teenage errands that would soon become a heartbreaking timeline of her final hours. She caught the 92 bus getting off at Sudbury Hill tube station around 3 p.m. Her well-worn route home involved walking down this very footpath, a wooded cut-through that would lead her to within 500 yards of her family's door. She was so close to safety, but she was not alone. Waiting was Viktors Dembavoskis, a 43-year-old Latvian national. But he wasn't just loitering, he was executing a plan. He had spent the morning drinking, fortifying his nerve, and he had prepared meticulously. He had carved out a secluded den in the thick undergrowth, a hidden blind, a predator's lair from which he could watch and wait, completely unseen. He wasn't waiting for Jeshma specifically, he was waiting for an opportunity, for a victim. At approximately 4:10 p.m, that opportunity arrived in the form of a 17-year-old girl carrying a Primark bag. Dembavoskis ambushed Jeshma, dragging her into the green darkness of the den. He strangled her until she lost consciousness, a tactical move to incapacitate his victim. He proceeded to rape her, and finally, in a cold, calculated act to permanently silence the only witness, he stabbed her 3 times through the heart. The violence was methodical, escalating, and utterly without mercy. That evening, as dusk settled, a different kind of dread began to grow. Jeshma did not come home. The Ryafata family's world began to fracture. The phone calls to friends began, and eventually the unthinkable reports to the police. Their daughter was missing. The 8-day silence and the escape. What followed was an 8-day nightmare. A massive police search operation scoured the area, the community holding its breath. Volunteers put up posters with Jeshma's smiling face, a face everyone hoped to see again. But the police were operating on a missing persons case. They were looking for a girl who might be lost or hurt. They were not yet looking for a body. And while a community searched and a family prayed, the killer was already putting distance between himself and his crime. Just 4 days after the murder on May the 20th, Viktors Dembavoskis, feeling no doubt the heat of the investigation, boarded a one-way coach to Latvia. He fled the country, slipping across borders with ease. No one was looking for him. But on May the 24th, the terrible, agonizing wait ended in the worst way possible. A groundsman maintaining the area ventured into a secluded patch of undergrowth and discovered the truth. Jeshma's partially clothed body was found, hidden in the den her killer had built. The missing persons case was now a murder investigation. The discovery of the body shifted everything. Now the forensics team moved in, and the evidence against Dembavoskis began to pile up. It wasn't just strong, it was a perfect storm of undeniable proof. First, the golden standard of modern crime fighting: DNA. His DNA was found on Jeshma's body. The forensic scientists would later tell the court the chance it belonged to anyone other than Dembavoskis was 1 in a billion. It was a scientific anchor tying him irrevocably to the scene. Second, a trove of damning evidence from his own home. During a search of his shared room on Dimmock Drive, the very road Jeshma's family lived on, police found her blood-stained necklace and other jewelry stuffed inside a fleece jacket. It was a trophy, hidden in his own closet. And third, the most damning mistake of all, the one that feels like poetic justice. In the frenzy of the attack, at the crime scene, right near Jeshma's body, Dembavoskis had dropped the keys to his own bedsit. He had quite literally left the key to his conviction at the scene of his crime. With this ironclad chain of evidence, a European arrest warrant was issued. The international manhunt was brief, On June 2nd, 2005, Dembowskis was arrested in his hometown of Levani, his flight to freedom over. He was extradited to the UK to stand trial for his crimes. The trial at the Old Bailey in 2006 was where the full horrifying picture was painted for the jury, and for Jeshma's family, who had to endure every detail. The prosecution meticulously detailed the ambush, the rape, the murder. Faced with this mountain of evidence, Dembowskis' defense was as desperate as it was illogical. He claimed he'd had consensual contact with Jeshma, but that a mysterious someone else was the actual murder, a story the prosecution rightly labeled as absurd. But then the courtroom heard the truth about the man in the dock, the truth that should have been known long before Jeshma ever stepped foot on that path. The jury learned that Victor Dembowskis was not a first-time offender. He was a convicted, serial, violent predator. He had been convicted of 2 separate knife-point rapes in Latvia in 1990 and 1997. This was his pattern. This was his modus operandi. The attack on Jeshma wasn't an anomaly, it was the escalation of a lifelong pattern of violence against women. It took the jury just 3 hours to see through the lies. They returned unanimous guilty verdicts for murder and rape. In March 2006, Judge Peter Beaumont sentenced him to 3 life sentences, telling him he had shown not one jot of remorse for his appalling crimes, and that he would never be released. It was a just end to a legal process, but a cold comfort for a life stolen. So we return to the central haunting question: how was this allowed to happen? How does a man with 2 convictions for knife-point rape end up living anonymously just doors away from his future victim, free to hunt? The answer is a devastating systemic failure. In 2004, the European Union expanded, rightly allowing for the free movement of people across borders. But the crucial life-saving systems for sharing criminal records did not keep pace. When Victor Dembowskis moved to the UK, his violent past did not follow him. It was trapped in a Latvian database, invisible to UK police. He was a known, registered danger in one country and an anonymous, clean-skated labourer in another. The community of Sudbury Hill and Jeshma Raitata were tragically blind to the predator living in their midst. The system designed to protect them had a fatal blind spot. If you found this at all interesting or informative, please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to, of course.